Today's guest is Thien Luu-Nguyen. We go over his training style, how he got started in Jiu-Jitsu, and how his coach had such a huge impact on him. The conversation was extremely interesting. I felt like he had a new perspective on stuff that I hadn't heard in a while, so it was really cool getting to talk to him. All right, I hope you enjoy, and let me know what you think in the comments below.
So my name's Thien Luu-Nguyen, known as the Gunslinger, Booty Clapper. Uh, I'm the self-proclaimed 11 stripe white belt. Originally I started doing jiu-jitsu because I was just in college and it just seemed like something fun. And then I was like, you know what? I used to wrestle. Screw it, right? COVID happened and I couldn't really train. And then I kind of couldn't really work out. And I've always been kind of a fit guy, doing sports throughout high school and all that. Realized, man, I got to lose some weight, you know what I mean? Getting a little chunky. And so I remember the last thing I did that was really fun was jujitsu. So I found a 10 planet, started training. And then as I trained more and more, I started competing. And then it just reignited something in me. And I felt like there was something missing in my life. And once that happened, the ball started get rolling. And then I meet Ramey. They were training for ADCC. I was like, damn, this thing seems cool. And just since then, I just like quit my job. I had a good savings, got fucking credit card, and just, you know, let the ball roll. And ever since then, I just couldn't get away from it. Couldn't run away.
Just living the dream out here.
Just living the dream, bro. Living the dream.
That's sick. How do you feel that your wrestling background helped you out in jiu-jitsu?
Um, it's probably not in the way that most people think. So more so is it made me realize how I used to train incorrectly.
Huh.
So I will say, I had really good wrestling coaches actually, but the thing was I was a young kid, I'm 14, 15, 16, right? I think I knew it all, and I was a football guy too, so it was all about grit and power, and and I'm lifting all the time. So I'm like this relatively strong but small guy in the room. So my thing was I'm just beat everyone's ass. That's it. So that was it for me. So I was always the big dog in that room. I mean, I remember like my junior and my senior year, the only person that would train with me was my cousin because he has no choice. And it was just us going at it every day. And anytime that the coaches would bring someone in to train with us, they would be like, they just couldn't hang with the fact that we were just going live all the time. And I don't want to say they couldn't hang. They just probably recognized it was kind of stupid, maybe. But it just, it pushed everyone away. And it just by, my junior and my senior year, it was just me and him training together. That was it. And then my senior year, actually, even my senior year, like my training partner, he kind of like was on and off and just couldn't go with that vibe either. So that's probably the main thing I learned is like, trying to be the big dog in the room is not the way to go. It's about skill acquisition. It's about improvement every day. It's not about just beating everyone in the room because that's not that hard. I'll be honest with you. If you're relatively athletic and you have any brain within you, you're gonna be the biggest guy or the best guy in the room pretty quickly, right? Especially if you're more on the stronger side, right? If you're the biggest man in the room, it take you like 2 months. Yeah, so that from learning from that, I started when I went to jiu-jitsu, I had a total mind shift
How
when it
did
comes to training.
and that mind shift, did it just kind of teach you to slow down and take stuff a little easier and really focus in on things?
It made me so it kind of made me realize like going hard. I was getting injured all the time in wrestling, right? I got a bunch of injuries constantly. B is I had like three moves that I did really, really well, and so I never explored. Whereas now when I train, like I don't care if someone taps me, like like a white belt can tap me. It doesn't matter, right? A black belt can tap me. It doesn't matter. I don't care who taps me. A girl can tap me. A kid can tap me. I don't care, right? For me, it's more like, okay, well, what am I trying to work? Am I working my passing, whatever it is? And I try to put myself in those scenarios as many times as possible. So let's say I'm working on top half passing, right? I might pass their guard, and then I'll find a situation where I'll allow them to recover, and then I'll pass their guard again. But maybe this time I'll give a different look. Maybe I'll pass with a different style. So like let's say top half, I'll go with, you know, underhooks one time. I'll go with crossface another time. I'll go with a bigger guy or smaller guy, whatever. And I'll do my best to use as least strength as possible and be as efficient as possible. That's
Okay.
really what my emphasis is.
And just was it jujitsu, the technique behind jujitsu that brought that, or do you think that like getting older and being more mature also helped with that?
It's for sure both.
Hmm.
Uh, when you're young, you want to be the tough guy and all that. It's normal, right? And I'm a small guy, so I probably had like a little Napoleon complex or some shit going on, right? So I just always had to prove myself. So when I was young, I always had to prove myself. As I grown up, I was like, it doesn't matter. Who cares? And then meeting the right people too. So I'm gonna say, actually, I should have opened with this, but most, if not everything, I'm gonna say is credited to two of my coaches I'm working with right now. So it's Coach Ben and Coach Eric Ramey. Most of the way I think, most of the things we talk about are from their ideas. So meeting them, um, and Coach Ben works with a lot of like high level people, and he talks to them, he knows them. So him giving me like this other point of view sometimes too made me realize, oh, you know what, that's the better way. And
Hmm.
ultimately you kind of have to see it. You can't. It's not like something everyone can just do. You ultimately have to kind of just see it for yourself, right? Because I've talked to guys, I'm like, dude, like the way you're working is not the right way, whatever. And then there's like, yeah, yeah, I agree. And then I go see them train and they do the same thing again. And it's like, but what do I know? I'm not an ADCC champion yet, so they're not gonna
Not
listen
yet.
to me anyways. So yeah, exactly. So they're not gonna listen to me yet. It's cool. I'm not here to change their mind. You know.
Hmm. And then besides like kind of slowing stuff down and that, what was something else you wish you knew when you started jujitsu that you feel like knowing would have helped you out?
I don't think I don't like wish for anything like in that manner.
Hmm.
Because I think everything I've done kind of led me to the path that it led me to, right? I guess if you're talking like in an ideal world, I guess I would like to maybe have started off with the coach that I started off with now, right? I think there was, but like when I started, I kind of explored leg locks on my own, for example, and that made me like kind of intuitively understand the game. And then when I met Ramey, he kind of like unraveled it, right? Like why did it make sense, or why did the things I do work, and why one move might be better versus another, right? So I wouldn't say there's anything to change because I'm happy with the way it kind of played out,
Hmm.
right? Because I can sit here and say, I wish I started when I was like 8, but I didn't.
Yeah,
So who cares? You know
that's
what I
true.
mean? Yeah, because like it's like those lessons happen for a reason, and all you can do is just learn from them.
Hmm.
Hopefully that didn't just like shut off your
No, no, you're
question,
good.
but
You're
that's just kind of
good.
my take.
Hey, that's what I want. I want your take on all this.
Yeah.
You talk about your coach a lot and kind of how they've like facilitated this growth in you. Do you think that it's up to the athlete to go seek out these coaches, or is there a way to use the coach that you have to kind of get that same thing?
So I think the best way, and this is kind of, I guess, like uh in up there is
Hmm.
I think if you seek it, you'll find it, right? So I think like Gordon, for example, I don't think he. I think if because he truly seeks it, he'll eventually find John or another guy like John, right? And I'm referring to Gordon Ryan and John Danaher. Obviously, everyone knows that.
I hope
But
so.
I I think if he seeks it, he will eventually find it. And I think it's the same for me, and I think it's the same for everyone else. I think if they truly seek being the greatest, whatever practitioner they can be, they will eventually find that coach. Because A is they'll run into coaches that they realize it's not the right way, or whatever the case might be, and they'll kind of just drift away. And they'll if their desire is still in this pursuit, they will find another way. They'll find another coach. They'll move. They'll do whatever it takes.
Hmm.
But that's not to say that my coaches aren't credited for it, right? There's still a huge role. But ultimately, I think if I hadn't found them, I would find someone else. If they somehow didn't existed, I would have found someone else. Because I have no choice.
Yeah, you're driven to kind of make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, I changed like gyms a couple of times now, right? And all of those changes happened early on. So I'm very fortunate in that too. It was like I didn't find a gym. I started off at a certain gym. It just didn't work with me. I went to another gym, didn't really work with me. And then I met Raimi. I was like, you know what? This guy got something. Yeah. So I have a story behind that too. But yeah, once I found it, I was like, that's it. I got to go there.
You want to go into that story a little, or?
Yeah, sure. So
Let's hear it.
all right. So when I started, jiu-jitsu and whatnot, I got into leg locks, and a person I was training with was talking to me about this mythical creature named Eric Ramey. And I was like, oh, whatever. Yeah, sure, whatever, right? I started training HQ, and then people were like crediting this guy again. The name pops up again. And then you're in 10th Planet. I don't know if you heard of the Ramey flow, right? So I'm like, it's not the same thing. Is that from the same guy? Yada, yada, yada. And then I go to a tournament, and it was like a money tournament, I think. And I won the tournament. I guess I had to face one of his guys.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow afterward, we kind of like hung out. We went to go eat together. And those guys were kind of like, I guess, the straw that broke the camel's back, if you want to call it that. But they were like, oh, you should come by and train with us. So I go and I do a drop in and to do one of his classes, right? I go in, and this guy at the time, because of his issues, he had like a mask on. I was like, fuck. So he had a whole N95 mask on. I was like, shit, this is not gonna work out well. But to be fair, he had some stuff that whatever, right? But anyway, so I go in, and that day he was teaching an ankle pick, right? Just basic wrestling move. I'm a wrestler, right? I wrestle in high school, and I'm relatively accomplished compared to a lot of people. So I'm like, what does this guy know? Like I know what's up. I'm just gonna look at this real quick, and then he'll show something, and I'll ask him about leg locks or something, right? And then he goes into teaching it, and I kid you not, I still remember this like it happened yesterday. So my back was facing the door, and I'm looking in, right? I'm on the mat, sitting down. Probably my feet was probably crossed, and he's talking about how for an ankle pick to happen, you need to have the head above the knee line. And I was like, wow, that's very interesting. And he goes into the whole thing. I see him do the move, and I swear it was like an anime like movement. Dude, it was like perfect. Like it was just like things just happen, right? It was like the perfect ankle pick I've ever seen in my life. And I've seen it before because my wrestling coach is also a very high level wrestler. He like won state in California, which is fucking hard to do. He's a 2-time state champion, and I think he took like 5th or something in nationals. Like he's a very good wrestler, right? But so I've seen it before, but maybe because I didn't really listen before, so I didn't really understand it. But after he finished demonstration of the move, I just went, dude, I know nothing about wrestling, and I need to start training here. And ever since then, I just like, since I start training there, like, he also is a coach that invests a lot of times in his athlete. There was a time that I wasn't really like a member. I was just doing drop-ins because I was like, okay, let me drop in because I can't pay for multiple gyms too much at the time. So like I'll just do a drop in. I'll take what I learn and I'll go back to my gym and just work it out, right? And even then, dude, like he would spend. There were days that me and him are class usually ended at like 10:30. We're there at like 2 a.m. and he's telling me how to do a move.
Jesus.
Like, you know what I mean? So that also adds on to that. Like, oh, this is the guy to train under.
And do you think that helped kind of facilitate your growth so quickly too, and really explode your game?
Oh, 100%, man. Um, I think a lot of it is the mind,
Hmm.
right? A lot of it is like the mind that's involved. So A is you have to have um, you yourself within yourself have to allow the coaches to coach, right? Everyone plays a role. Um, you know anything about like contracting, like contractors and stuff, like a little bit of it?
Like contractors in terms of construction?
Yeah, like like you have the general contractor and you have subcontractors that do. Yeah, so I think as an athlete, you kind of have to look at it, or in business, the same thing, right? You have
Hmm.
the general person that, which is the athlete, right? And then you delegate everyone to do their job, right? So, my technique coach is doing his job by showing me technique. That's it. He's not showing me, conditioning,
Hmm.
right? My mental coach would do that, my whatever. So, I think delegating in that way and everyone doing their job is like the ideal way to kind of like facilitate the best growth. I
Hmm.
think when things go awry is when you have, a strength and conditioning coach giving you technique when they don't really understand the game,
Hmm.
right? Or you have whatever, right? That mixture just you can't have an electrician go do the plumbing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they're gonna
Yeah.
butcher your plumbing, bro.
You're
You know what
done.
I mean? Yeah, yeah. Like you build up the house, it looks all nice, but like, you're getting like electrocuted and shit. So
Yeah.
you gotta have the right guy for the right job, right?
Uh-huh. Okay. And kind of with that comes a lot of cross training, and our sport's getting better about it now, but there's still kind of this weird thing about like, oh, if you're 10th Planet's cool about it though, but if you're not like from that gym, you don't really go to another gym. What do you think about that? And like, do you think that should stop and people should just cross train with everybody, or like, what are your thoughts?
Um, I think I think that people should do what is most effective, right? So you got to recognize if the coaches that don't allow cross train, you have to ask why.
Hmm.
Why don't they allow it, right? So maybe their reasoning is correct. I don't know. I haven't, looked into that too much. I haven't really ran into those problems, but maybe they say it because they saw something that's going on over there that's not great or whatever. I don't think there's like like if it should stop or not because it again it's up to the athlete to make that decision, right? Like if your coach is telling you, oh, you can't cross train because uh because it's not safe environment over there. Okay, that makes sense. That's
Hmm.
good because like you're going over there and let's say you're doing MMA, you go to a gym and everyone's lighting you up every day, right? And
Yeah.
you're going to war. That's probably not ideal, right?
Yeah.
But if they're saying it so you have to recognize this is where you have to kind of do the work, is you got to recognize this. Are they saying it for the benefit of me becoming a better athlete, or are they saying it for their own ego? Right. I
Okay.
think that's actually where a lot of the problem comes from is ego. And there's good and bad ego, right? Like everyone has to have an ego. It's just, it is what it is. We're humans. We all have it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just when the ego is used in the wrong manner, right?
Hmm.
Um, yeah. So I think it's okay. I think cross training is great, but with the right people. I wouldn't cross train with people that are going 1,000% every day, and they're trying to like compete in the training room, and they're trying to kill each other because they're trying to prove something in front of the coach. Like I don't care for that. I
Yeah.
literally can care less. You can tap me in front of everyone. I don't care. But when we step in man, we're competing. That's a different story. If you want to prove something, show up to the competition, right? Where we sign to actually do that.
That's true. Okay, and we both are kind of lucky we come from California and bigger places, but in a small town area where you only have like one or two gyms maybe, what's some advice you'd give someone who's trying to learn jiu-jitsu but their coach just isn't at the level they want to be?
Um. So even if the coach isn't at the level that you need, I think you can. Obviously, you still need a great, depending on how far you're trying to go, right? If
Hmm.
you're trying to go to the top, that's going to be very hard, very, very hard. Not impossible, but very, very hard. But if you're just trying to get good, like let's say you're doing your job, but it's a hobby, but you want to improve, I think the way to go is same as I mentioned before. Train in a way where it's just all about skill acquisition, right? And you hear John say this a lot, right?
Yeah.
And it is true because it's a training room, right? I'm not trying to seek for total dominance of everyone. What I'm trying to do is, okay, today maybe I work on a Dayashi takedown, right? I work on it. I'm getting good at it. Okay, I'm doing pretty well. I'm not just going to use only that. I'm going to work my single leg takedown. I'm going to work whatever, right? And also, you also have to think of what is the most effective takedowns too. What is the most efficient? You kind of have to look at everything and understand what is the best way to go about it,
Hmm.
right? So, actually, I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
Like, let's say you you you're very good at double legs. There's different kind of double legs. Which one is the best double leg, right? So personally, I think a blast double is very efficient in that. No, sorry, not efficient. It's probably one of the best double leg because you don't get caught in guillotines and things like that, right? And it works relatively well.
Hmm.
Is it? I think it's much better than, let's say, a head outside double leg. So my time investing in a head outside variation is probably much lower than a blast double. But is the blast double the best? Probably not. Maybe I'll work. Maybe the best thing is, getting to rear body lock. That's what I emphasize much more than even the double leg, for example.
Okay.
Right. So understanding like mechanically what works the best, and then taking your time and kind of investing in that. If you're in the stock market, right, you wouldn't bet on Kodak. Like Kodak died 20 years ago, bro. Like they went bankrupt. Like I'm not investing my life savings on that, right? I'm gonna
Yeah.
invest on the Teslas and the right. So it's the
Hmm.
same thing, just mechanically it works better. Like any type of rear body lock takedown just works better. I wouldn't I would invest most of my time there, right? So I think that's kind of like the way you kind of have to look at it, and it takes a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
Not even hard work; it just takes a lot of thinking. It takes a lot of investing time and learning things, watching videos, whatever the case might be, reaching out to coaches that maybe if you're in, I don't know, Wyoming, reach out to the coaches that you've seen that might know some of this stuff and talk to them, right? But ultimately, it's just you have to mechanically look at all the moves and what's the most effective path,
Hmm. And
right?
when we kind of talk about like building these effective paths and stuff, like for me, I study kind of trials and see what those guys are doing and highest percentage. Well, how are you building out your like, oh, this is what I'm going to do because of this reason?
So yeah, like I watch a lot of tape myself, right?
Hmm.
So like ADCC, we kind of saw the heel hook go away a
Yeah.
little bit. Not really, but it's not as much as it was, let's say, in 2019 or the
17.
previous years. Yeah, like 17, for example, right? So does that mean that the heel hook's dead? No, not necessarily, right? So I watch the tape, and it's good for me too because I have like coaches that will do this with me.
Hmm.
They'll watch it and then we're like tallying up. Okay, what's the most? What submissions happen the most? What is the best submission? Or what's the most effective submission and why?
Hmm.
Too. The why is actually very important. I think a lot of people when they learn things, they don't look at that. They just kind of look at it like just the surface. You got to go deeper than that, right? So let's say I watch ADCC. Like one thing I noticed is like the 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 lack of exploit for like the turtle position, for example. They do it more now than they have before,
Hmm.
but it's still not to the level that maybe it should be in the future. So like let's say you recognize that now you take that and you develop a system around that.
Okay.
Let's say you recognize like armbar is kind of going around, right?
Yeah.
You kind of saw that rise this year, so maybe there's a situation there, right? Everyone's so worried about the past, they're extending their arms. Boom, jump into armbar. Hence, what was it, Cade versus Lachlan, right?
At the
Video.
yeah, and
Yeah,
I think
ADCC.
PJ too got armbarred by
Yeah, that was
Ruotolo.
that was from a wrestling scenario.
Hmm.
So it's not necessarily the same, but yeah, you got to extend to do certain things, right? So when the guard pass or the takedown is in play, people will then extend their limb to counter and to defend themselves. But then it allows submissions happen, right?
Okay.
So you have to kind of watch and see everything and kind of really dedicate a lot of time to understanding the why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as a coach and kind of bringing on, you're seeing athletes come in, but you're also an athlete yourself. Would you build that curriculum based on like the athlete comes in and says, I want to win trials, so let's build a curriculum around trials? Or are you looking at building out like, okay, we have trials, worlds, and then actual ADCC, and I need to get you through all of those?
I wouldn't necessarily I wouldn't necessarily, I can't even speak, necessarily call myself a coach, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of just uh, taking what I'm learning and explain it in my own way. That's it. You know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not, I'll be honest, I'm not trying to build any world champions anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
That's for my coaches to do. That's their thing. If anyone tells me, hey, coach, whatever, I don't even call me coach, but hey, Lou, I wanna be a world champion. Like, you know what? I know this guy. I know a guy. That's what I'll do. Yeah, I'm not doing any of that anytime soon, bro. So, but I do kind of work a curriculum. Like, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
so right now, for example, I'm teaching at our local school. Give them a shout out, School BJJ in Arcadia, in California. So right now, like I've been teaching there, and you know, they don't work a lot of takedowns. So right now, when we're working on takedowns, my emphasis, actually, they probably do. My bad. I'm probably wrong for that. But anyways, my way of teaching them takedowns is not even like in front wrestling where you're facing your opponent, right, head
Mm-hmm.
to head. I'm working everything towards taking their back and working all
Okay.
the takedown from rear body lock,
Huh.
for example, right? Because I just think that's just more effective. So um, I think the curriculum is just whether you're building world champions or not. I think it's just building everything towards a more effective route, right? So all of our takedowns is about either getting their hands to the mat so they're in a 4 point and we take them down there, or better yet, get to a rear body lock via arm drags, whatever. Then we actually look to break them down, right? I look at the process as like, let's say, like you're chopping a tree down, right? Um, you kind of want to cut it piece by piece until it falls down slowly. If you just kind of chop it and it falls, it's very dangerous, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a big tree, that's very dangerous, right? There's a lot of space you got to cover. So now this tree, imagine this tree can stand up, right? But you chop it, it stands right back up. You're like, oh shit,
Yeah, you're in
right? So
trouble.
you got to chop the tree constantly, right? You attack it at the legs, attack it at the body, and then eventually break it down. Okay,
Okay.
so yeah.
And when it comes to like, if you were to build out your career path at the start and knowing what you know now, how would you have set up your whole training system from when you started jiu-jitsu? Like, what would you say to focus on first?
Always defense,
Okay.
defense, 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 defense. If you actually look at all my matches,
Mm-hmm.
that's the one thing that's improved the most throughout time.
Is a defense.
Um, yeah, the defense, 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 man. I think defense is a huge, huge thing. I always try to hone in on my defense, because why does it matter if you have good offense if your defense is trash? Like, you can have the best heel hook in the world, but if someone catches you with a heel hook and you don't know what to do, they put you in 50-50. Now it's a shootout. Good luck, dude.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I always make sure my submission defense is on point. My positional defense is even better, or if not just as good. Usually submission defense should be the best. But submission defense, positional defense, guard retention, and then maybe everything else. Right? But
Okay.
defense has to be like honed in, man. It's so important. I think a lot of people lack that knowledge. Um, Actually, they don't even lack the knowledge; just they don't emphasize a lot of it, right? Because like when we start talking earlier, right? It's all about being the big dog in the room. So
Mm-hmm.
when you're in a big dog in the room, you can't get tapped.
That's
You
true.
can't if you can't get tapped, you can't be caught in the first place, right? For
Mm-hmm.
me, I'm like, especially with people I trust, I'm like, bro, here, take this arm, extend that shit all the way, and let's see what you can do.
Okay.
So I obviously they're not breaking my arm because I trust them. So we'll work things like that. So now, I've been caught in a certain situation where I can feel, let's say, they have bad mechanics. Um, I'm like, you know what? Try to break it. I know you can't because I know your mechanic's not good. I'll fight to the end. So just because I've been in that situation so many times, I just know you can't break it. So I'm like, go. Like, so it allows me to take higher risks too.
Mm-hmm.
Or in the eyes of others, it's high risk, but in my eyes, it's like I didn't take any risk. I can have a sore elbow, like I'm fine. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
you're so confident in that.
Yeah, I mean, you probably saw some of the qualifiers. Like I had my arm extended a couple times,
Yeah.
nothing. You know, I
Seven.
literally just like, oh, my arm's a little bit sore. All right, Monday back to training, or it's actually
Okay.
the next day I'm back to training. That's no problem. Yeah.
And kind of go into that, like arm being sore and injuries. What are you looking at? Like if you do get injured, how are you training besides like just showing up, doing some drilling? Is there outside? You said you watch film. Are you doing instructionals? What's that look like?
Just acai and Jesus, man. That's all you need. No, but just let's go to church and pray to the Lord and Savior and make sure that my arm heals up fast. No, but I for sure, like,
Mm-hmm.
even if I'm injured, I'll still go in and train. I'll train what I can, right? I have been injured before, you know, and I still do what I can. I think more volume is better. So maybe it's not physical volume;
Mm-hmm.
it could be mental volume. So if you're injured, you can still show up and watch, right? Let's
Yeah.
just say you're somehow crippled in all four limbs.
Hmm.
I don't know how. You know, you got arm barred both sides and heel hook both sides. You can still watch. I mean, the mind is very powerful, man. You know, I also learn a lot visually, so I can watch a move and watch it like 10 times maybe, and then I can just do it. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or if you can't, watch it 100 times, not watch it 1,000 times, right? So you eventually pick up things. I've actually picked up things just watching people roll. I used to coach kids, and you know, I can watch the kids roll. I'm like, oh my god, this is very interesting. I just boom, epiphany, something just worked, right? So those moments are very, very expensive to have. So you have to pay your dues in the sense of showing up. You know, you show up, you might see someone that maybe not even high level do something. You're like, wow, that might actually work in
Mm-hmm.
my game, right? Or like I said, man, like sometimes like the kids, because you know they're so free and they just do whatever. You see some very interesting stuff, man. You know, so you can pick up from them too. Like if you can watch even kids, you're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
most of the time it's probably garbage, but you know, so once in a while you get something cool out of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you can't drill,
Do you
let's say
think
you're so
coaching
injured that
kind
you
of
can't
helps with
drill,
that too,
show
and
up to watch, show
seeing
up to talk
those?
to your coach, right?
Okay.
If I can't train, I'll literally sit on the side. I'm just talking to them the whole time, like, oh, what do you think about this? You
Mm-hmm.
know, I had all these things saved up. What do you think about this? How about this? You think that's better than this? Whatever. The question just keeps going, you know, and it stems from, you know, having an actual curiosity towards the game, having an actual desire
Mm-hmm.
to learn, you know, because I know there's a lot of people, not to knock on anyone, but there's a lot of people that are quote unquote higher belts, and you know they still don't even learn the
Okay.
game that it is today. You know, there's many people that, I mean, I've only been doing this just over 2 years. Let's say three. I know more than some people that have been training 20 years, and it's not because I'm special. It's just because I actually ask questions. They learn
Okay.
whatever they learn, and they only
And
improve on that
when you
small
kind of
little
talk
thing that they've
about
done. You
like,
know,
you know,
so
there's all
you
these
kind of have to
outside
always
coaching
improve,
resources.
always
Do you
improve,
use any
right?
instructionals? Because the rise of like BJJ fanatics and stuff has made stuff kind
A
of
hundred percent,
big and
a
easy
hundred
for people
percent.
to access high level technique. Do you
Coaching is
rely on
another
those?
training session for me personally, um, and I do it.
Mm-hmm.
I ultimately coach for myself because I'm really coaching because I'm trying to confirm my own like thinking for whatever it is I'm doing,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's takedowns or submission or defense or whatever the case might be. I'm just trying to reteach myself
Yeah.
that over and over again. And just fortunately, because when I do that, everyone else also benefits from it. That's kind of the way I look at it. I'm not the one to say like, you know, I'm coaching because I want to help all my students. That would be a lie. Um, I coach because it ultimately helps me,
Yeah, he's still
and
pretty
because it helps
big
me
too.
improve, it helps everyone else improve also. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say I rely on it,
Yeah.
but I do watch them. You know, I do watch some of John's stuff, some of Gordon, Craig, all these guys. I do watch their stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? Also have to take into consideration if does it work for me, right?
Yeah.
So if you notice, like let's say John, his success
It's not the
stems
best.
from mostly bigger guys, right? Not to say that it doesn't work on smaller guys. I don't know the reason why he doesn't have any,
Yeah.
lower
That makes
weight
sense.
guys that is at a higher level. With I guess the exception of like Oliver's Taza. But what I guess a lot of them left too. But
Mm.
that whole thing. Yeah, so a lot of you have to take into consideration that a lot of his technique probably favors a bigger guy, right? So even if you watch their technique, you have to kind of learn to adapt it
Yeah.
to yourself. So you should you use instructional? Yes, because it's like I mentioned about showing up to
True.
practice, right? Even if you can't drill, you can still watch. So it's not, yeah, you're just
Yeah, it's
downloading
probably
more
not the best.
data, and then you have to filter out the data to see what's
Okay.
useful and what
And
is
then,
just
you're
not
talking
good
about
for
like
you,
making everything work for
right?
your
Like
game.
maybe buggy
What
chokes isn't the
advice do you
best
have for
for
people that are
me,
interested in kind of
like
starting a career in
trust me, I've tried it,
jiu-jitsu?
and
Like, how would you do that? Clearly, you just
I
said,
have a
fuck it,
version.
I'm
Yeah, I have
doing
a version
everything
that
I
kind of
can to
works, but
start
I kind of like,
jiu-jitsu. So
it's not
what would
as
be like,
effective
would
as
you
some
just
other stuff.
advise
I'm
everyone to
gonna
do that,
just gonna
or?
invest my time in other things, Yeah, but you should use
Mm-hmm.
it. Yeah, you should use it to download more data. Because also, dude, like you might face someone that knows that thing that you didn't, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you should watch it. But you also ultimately always have to be your own coach and recognize.
Yeah.
Don't just look at it and go,
Little.
"Oh, John says this is the most effective thing," and John, trains Gordon, and so it might has to work for me too. It's like, yeah, dude, Gordon is two something, right? On
Okay.
all the acai in the world, right?
And what are?
And
Oh, sorry.
you're a 5'4", 130-pound guy. Probably,
Yeah.
yeah, probably not the best, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what would you? What are some of those like? Obviously, there's tough spots about
Everyone's
kind of just
situation
putting
is
stuff on
different, man.
credit and everything.
I'm
But
I'm a
what
risk
really
taker,
was
bro,
like some of the
and
spots where you're
I
like,
think I
fuck, like
my
this is
time's
really hard. Did
very
you ever
limited
have
on
those
this earth,
moments where you
so I'm
felt like you
like, you
wanted
know
to
what?
quit and
That's
stuff?
just the route I did. Um, I probably can't give advice to anyone to do it if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you want to do it, just fucking do it. There's no if you're
Okay.
sitting. I'll say this. How about this? If you found an excuse to not do it,
Yeah.
just don't do it. I think that's the better way to look at it. Because yeah, because I think like it's not. It's big, but there's not a lot of money in this, man. If you're doing it and you're like, oh, but let's say, you really want to be a
Mhm.
jiu-jitsu athlete, but you're like, but if I start out, I can't make money already, just cut it off. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't be a jiu-jitsu athlete. You're not going to make money in the long term anyways, you know? Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Mm-hmm.
actually had the opposite. And what I mean is I gave myself outs, and every time I reached those spots,
Yeah.
I actually found a reason to continue. So, yeah. So for me, like training's hard. Everything's hard.
That's
Everything
true.
in life's hard. You know what I mean? You can try to be being a garbage man is hard. You know what I mean? Like everything's hard.
You gotta work.
So, it's just more so whatever you're doing, does it bring enough
Yeah.
value so that you can still suffer and it's okay, right? But
Yeah.
ultimately, I don't suffer though. I kind of enjoy what I do. I love the fact that I just get to wake up, go train, eat, relax a little bit, train some more, eat, relax, train some more, go home, eat some ice
Okay.
cream.
Yeah, that's true.
I love what I do.
And
I enjoy it. I
you
have
talk
no
about hating
complaints.
cardio and stuff. Do you do a lot
I
of
hate
like, you're
cardio, but
pretty
it is what
jacked,
it is.
so you're obviously doing a lot of outside
But
weightlifting
even
and stuff.
that,
What does that look
even
like for
that,
you?
it's like I don't care. It's all good. There's
Really?
I can't give any advice to get over that hump besides maybe you just don't want it that bad, because it's not easy, man. Nothing's easy. You're trying to be the best stripper in the world. It's going to be hard. You know what I mean? Like it's not like you're just out there shaking your ass and you're going to make a lot of money, bro. You got to go get Botox or whatever you got to do. Like yeah, you got to work that thing. Like you gotta work on your
Okay.
game. I don't know, whatever. But nothing's easy, man. And if you want to get to the top,
Damn.
nothing's easy.
Just curls.
Absolutely
Okay.
nothing.
Calisthenics
But
and curls.
also recognize there's
There we
nothing wrong
go.
with not being at the top too. Right? Most people aren't at the top. So I think that's actually
That's true. You're gonna be out on the town.
problematic than anything is when people aren't okay with that.
There you go.
No, there's nothing wrong. Yeah.
No,
go ahead.
and what like is going to keep you doing this in jiu-jitsu? I know you said when you hit those milestones, it really kind of propels you, but what else is there something that's keeping you driven during that? Or are you just a hard worker? What do you think it is?
Yep. Just gymnastic style workouts. I do rings. That's about it. I hate cardio, but when I have to, like if a big tournament is coming up and I know I gotta really do it, I'll still do it. It's just part of the job. It's not like I'm not just gonna quit on it, right? So I'll slowly ramp myself back up to doing it. I'll push myself a little bit more, whatever the case might be. But most of the time, I just do calisthenic workouts, and then besides that, just curls. That's it. Yeah, gotta get the biceps ready. You know what I'm saying? It's summer. Summer in Southern California, baby. You know what I mean? Yeah, sun's out, you gotta put the guns out, So, yeah. I think it's just my desire for it, I don't see any milestone really, because I kind of just
and then you talk about winning.
Enjoy what I'm doing.
No, that's good. You've had good answers to the questions
on their own. I'm not really doing anything.
And you talk about like these big matches and stuff. So what do we have in store for you this year? Obviously, you're gonna do ADCC trials. So it's not, what else are you looking at?
I could win ADCC tomorrow, and I'll still be back training anyway. So it's nothing much. Like, yeah, I might be a little bit happy, right? Because you won, right? Like, let's say you win whatever match and you're like, that was a big match against a big name. Cool. Like, nice. And then you just move on, It's not, because I think I'm looking at more long-term. And this is only like a stepping stone towards my eventual thing that I want to do in the future. So this is only just another step. It's nothing. Yeah. I mean, not to sound too much like, I don't care, nonchalant. I appreciate it, right? Like, I appreciate like winning whatever matches or whatever the case might be, but it's not the end goal, so I'm not going to celebrate anytime soon. Yeah. I kind of lost your question there. I don't know if I answered it. So right now it's just
that's true.
So I think Submission Only Series, they're doing like a tournament. I'm kind of interested in that. I think they're doing 145. So Mike's always been cool with me and putting me on the matches. So shout him out there. So whatever weights he puts on, whether I'm on or not, you guys should definitely tune in and watch it. He throws on a hell of a show, right?
I know.
So I'm a huge fan
it's part of it.
I love to get on that.
Well, that's awesome. And then kind of just to start to work on closing this out, where can people like check you out? Is it just Instagram, or do you do instructionals?
Awesome.
What is that?
Also a dope guy. Put me on all these shows too. So I appreciate him for that. So yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot of matches set up. Just know I always compete. So these last couple months been a little bit like not really a couple, like 1 or 2 months maybe. That it's been a little bit hectic, so I haven't been competing as much as I should. But I'm still doing it at least once every 2 weeks. Ideally, I'd be doing like once a week type thing, but sometimes traveling is a little bit hard. So yeah, so I do my best, but yeah, I mean, I'm competing all the time, man. Uh, that's really it. I just enjoy it. It's fun as hell. Nothing more fun than that last push and then your arm's dead. You know what I'm talking about?
That's
That's so miserable, but hey, it's kind of fun.
yeah,
It's
and
kind
then
of
I
fun
taught.
after. Yeah.
But you're consistent.
No instructional yet. Maybe in the future, I'll
Mhm.
share some stuff. I think I have some cool stuff that I want to show in the future. But right now, you guys can check me out on Instagram. It's gonna be TH1. Let's go. ENLUU.
That's
And
awesome.
then
And then
same thing
I'd like to
for
close it out with
YouTube,
this
I believe.
question, but
Something like
what does
that. Those are
BJJ
my
mean to
handles.
you?
I'm just primarily on Instagram, really. I do my best to be active on there, but it can be hard. That's not my main focus. I do my best to kind of put out fun, cool content, whatever I can. But my thing is just mainly training, 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 man. I live a very boring life, bro. Like, well, to some people it's boring, I guess. Like when I talk to people and they're like, "Oh, I'm traveling, I'm doing all this and that," I'm like, "Damn, cool. I just train. That's it." Yeah, like they're like, "Ah, bro, like what are you doing today?" Same thing as I did last week, dude. Same thing I did yesterday. Like that's it. Besides the weekend, yeah. Besides the weekend, like if I'm competing, like that'll be like a little bit exciting. So
Yeah.
like if I travel for tournaments, that's kind of exciting.
Well, that's awesome. And
But
I
otherwise,
appreciate you coming
there's
on,
nothing wrong
and
with it. I
talking to you
love it.
was
I enjoy
great.
it. Otherwise, I
And I
wouldn't do
feel
it.
like people are really going to get a lot
So
out of
showing up
this.
every day is fun as hell for me. So
I
all
think
good.
so. Yeah, thank you.
Um, hmm. I think it's a very
There we go.
fun and interesting art.
Dude, thank you so
Yeah.
much. You're the easiest guest I've ever had to talk to.
I guess, but I think
yeah, everyone's usually
me,
like hella stressed out and all
it's the
worried.
thing that
And I'm
originally
like,
helped
no,
me lose weight.
you're so
But,
easy to talk to.
But it became a love
Dude, that's
of mine.
pretty
I really
interesting
enjoy
what
it.
you're saying about
I love doing
just
it.
going straight
I
to the
love
back
teaching
and
it.
the turtle
I
thing.
love being around
I never really
people
thought
that are
about that. And
serious
I've been
about
like
it.
studying the trials matches, but you're right.
And
No one ever really attacks
ultimately, it's
turtle
just
that well.
a love of mine. That's it. I mention him. Yeah. So that's it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully,
You just go to
hopefully it
turtle.
helps someone. That'll be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. No, appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on. And again, shout out to my coaches. Shout out to School BJJ for having me these last couple months. And yeah, I'll see you guys soon. And I'll be back on stage very shortly.